Happy Friday. Did you ever have one of those days where I think I have plenty of time to get things done, and then I really don't have plenty of time? I had prepared everything, but I forgot that I needed to come in and, like I said last night, I had been able to configure how I can actually have some of the slides up where it's not just capturing the image. But here's what I know. This is, while it's the final night, you have showed up for 5 nights, and that's really rare. I know I changed the time, but when I really reflected and I meditate and I go a lot on intuition, whether you're listening to this later or live, it is Friday. And we've always had just a special feeling for Friday. In fact, all of my kids, so I have 5 kids, grew up knowing I don't cook on Fridays, meaning it was the day that we had pancakes or French toast or eggs, but it wasn't a big planned meal. When you have 5 kids, that means a lot. And it's actually something they, for the most part, have instilled as well. So Fridays have just always been a close to the week, preparing for the weekend to get ready for next week. And most people have a hard time committing for 5 days. And here's what you did. You started out and you picked and you set a worthy goal. And you saw, because you can't unsee what you now know, your paradigm. You walked through understanding fear. You named your money ceiling that's been running your life. And tonight, you're still here. And I am so deeply proud of every single person who has honored themselves, because I've long said, for everyone that I have the ability to help, is that learning how to study yourself can be some of the hardest things, because we really do have to stop blaming and start looking at where we are. So last night did expose where some money paradigms are. And tonight is all about one word. Because when we look at the money paradigm, something usually shifts. And so we're going to take that and help make that shift permanent versus what makes it disappear by Saturday morning. If you recall, I said last night, we're going to bring everything together and I'm going to help you glue it all together so that this is something that becomes permanent. And today is really about one word, and it is one mental move. And it's the single most powerful thing that any of us can do. And that thing, no one was ever taught how to do properly. And tonight we're going to talk about decision. Now, I remember when Bob first said that we're not taught how to make decisions. And when I finished walking through some of the most important components of what a decision really is and looks and feels like, you will now also understand that. So now that I have these fancy new tools and I have figured out how to do this, wait, let's make sure. That's interesting. No, I have to put it on 1. I might know how to do this eventually by the end. Oh, why is it not? Oh, because I'm on the wrong thing. Browser, interact. Now I get to move it. Just wanted to see, when can I move this? And now let's make sure that you can see it as well. Perfect. There we go. I can see me on the left. I can see this on the right. And it's just really being able to walk through and move the slides, which is fantastic. And it's really to understand it is a mental move. It's a mental decision that you can make, which is really a millisecond. It's going to solve enormous problems for you, and it has the potential to improve any personal or business place that we're in, and anything that you could ever encounter. It's going to propel you down the path of success when you understand the difference between decision and non-decision. It really does happen in a millisecond. When I get to share my story, it really was a millisecond. We're not weighing this out. And that magic mental activity called decision comes from the Latin word called decidere. Let's find this. I had to look this word up because when Bob was alive, he always talked about that he had to look up words if he did not know what they were, which is really brilliant when you think about it, because it expands our vocabulary, and it's really what keeps us. And I'm not saying it right because I did forget to take a moment and look up how to really pronounce it, because I think it's called decadere. It's not desa, which means literally cutting off. So when we decide something, we're cutting off every other possibility, and we don't have a back door out. So we take away, we'll see how it feels, and you take away if it works out. We're taking that escape hatch that your paradigm keeps opening your entire life, and the one labeled maybe. Maybe I'll see what it's like. Maybe this will work out. Maybe I'll be good at this. See, most people actually never do decide. They simply make a preference. Which way are they leaning? Which way are they considering? And they just want to keep their options open. Isn't that interesting? And then they wonder why their life never really changes. Want all my options open. I had to deal with that. And I'm going to save it all. I'll cover all of this in my story when I had to make a decision. So a real decision and a strong preference are not the same thing. A preference says, I'd like that if the conditions all line up and the stars align. And a decision, this is going to happen. This is happening. And I'm no longer entertaining any of the alternatives. This is the path I'm going. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. Because when you make a real decision and we cut off anything else, this is where something extraordinary happens. And the universe now rearranges itself to support what you just decided. But when we're wishy-washy, remember, your subconscious does not know the difference between what is real and what is imagined. We're giving it conflicting orders. But when we know where we're going, resources show up. People show up, doors open only after you make a decision, not before. I was listening to actually a 3-day training by a gentleman by the name of Richmond Din out of Australia. Really interesting character. And I thought, this really is how the universe lines up, so pay attention. It was Australian, so it was last night, 7 p.m. to 4 a.m. I did not stay up, but I recorded it. And I was listening to it, and he talked about he had made the decision. And his decision was to be in Russell Brunson's inner circle because he needed to be close to him. The whole backstory, so I don't want to go all the way down that road. But what he pointed out was that you have to put a stake in the ground. He made a decision, and then he tried to figure it out, which was making some uncomfortable decisions along the way. Because most people wait for the resource before they decide, and it actually works in the opposite order. And so it really is to understand, I am not choosing based on conditions. It's not the conditions. And so when we understand that most people get this wrong. They're waiting for everything to line up. If this happens and this happens and this happens, then I'll do that. If the money shows up, clients come in the door, then I'll spend more and do this. You know, when transcendental meditation was being brought to the U.S., and I do not recall his name, but he was asked, the yogi, where's all the money coming from? And his answer is, wherever it is right now. Wherever it is right now. It is coming from wherever it is right now. So the resources will show up. But that indecision or trying it or seeing how it works out, I will tell most everyone I have a conversation with what I get to help with, there is no let's see how it works and let me try it out, because there's not a commitment. And it's making a commitment to ourselves about where we are and who we are and what we're going after. And there's often cited resources and research. Abraham Maslow spent his life studying self-actualized people. And it was really those who became the fullest expression of who they are. And he found one trait that they all shared. They made their own decisions. They weren't swayed by the opinions of others. They weren't asking everybody, what do you think? What do you think I should do? They were not waiting for permission. They made their own decisions. They weren't negotiating. They weren't seeing what their friends thought. They consulted themselves. They decided and they moved. And on the other end of the spectrum is, did I write? I'm not sure I have him. That's okay. Sometimes I put these together and I think I'm including everybody. But the other end, what he noticed, Dr. Maslow, is that those people on the other side of the spectrum, they can't decide. And the dictionary defines ambivalence as the coexistence in one person of opposite feelings toward the same objective. The opposite. The coexistence in one person of opposite feelings toward the same objective. I want money, I think I can't do this. I want money, I think I can't do this. I want to be successful, I've never been successful. So wanting it and not wanting it at the same time. And so when we say we want to change, we're protecting the very thing that's keeping us stuck. So indecision is what sets up the internal conflict in you. And when you leave them alone long enough, they become full-on mental and emotional wars that are going on in our head. And you probably can feel it right now. So the part of you that really wants the dream life is at war with the part of you that wants to stay safe. And you're starting to negotiate. Well, maybe I'll try this, or maybe I'll do that. And it's the realization that the war actually ends the moment you decide. It's the moment that you decide. So William James said, compared to what we ought to be, we are making use of only a small part of our physical and mental resources, and the human individual lives far within his limits. Far within his limits. We don't want to stay within our limits. Thomas Edison said if we did all the things that we're capable of, we would truly astound ourselves. You're going to have to pardon me. Outside with allergies. So both these, across centuries, are pointing at the same thing. You're operating at a very tiny fraction of what you're capable of. And the thing standing in the way between where you are and what you're capable of isn't the skill, isn't the talent or luck, it is decision. I am certain when most people think about what I'm going to talk tonight, this word is not the one that they think is going to come up, because it's also understanding what happens with indecision. So indecision is a decision. Isn't that interesting? Indecision itself is a decision. And it is the decision to stay where you are. Because that's really what we're deciding. We're deciding to stay where we are to get more of what we've got. And to live another year exactly like this one. Indecision is deciding to stay where you are and to get more of what you've got for the last 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 20 years and live another year exactly like this one. So when the time for decision arrives, you must make a decision where you are with what you've got. You don't have to wait for perfect information. You don't wait until you feel ready. You don't wait for everything to be right and the stars to align. Decision makers decide in the now. So let's flip the screens a moment. Well, no, you can see me in the corner. So one of our favorite authors is Price Pritchett, who wrote U Squared. And in the very beginning of the book, his true story is a story called The Fly. It's one page, so I just want to share this story with you. And so I just want you to sit and really listen to this, because the first time people really hear this, you're going to see yourself in this, because I saw myself in it. And I just have a feeling some of you will too. It starts out, there's a small fly burning out the last of its short life's energies in a futile attempt to fly through the glass of the window pane. The whining wings tell the poignant story of the fly's strategy, try harder. But it's not working. The frenzied effort offers no hope for survival, and ironically, the struggle is part of the trap. It is impossible for the fly to try hard enough to succeed at breaking through the glass. Nevertheless, this little insect has staked its life on reaching its goal through raw effort and determination. This fly is doomed, and it will die there on the windowsill. Across the room, 10 steps away, the door is open. 10 seconds of flying time, and this small creature could reach the outside world it seeks. With only a fraction of the effort now being wasted, it could be free of this self-imposed trap. The breakthrough possibility is there. It would be so easy. Why doesn't the fly try another approach, something dramatically different? And how did it get so locked in on the idea that this particular route and determined effort offer the most promise for success? What logic is there in continuing until death to seek a breakthrough with more of the same? No doubt this approach makes sense to the fly, and regrettably, it's an idea that will kill. Trying harder isn't necessarily the solution to achieving more. It may not offer any real promise for getting what you want out of life, and sometimes, in fact, it's a big part of the problem. If you stake your hopes for a breakthrough on trying harder than ever, you may kill your chances for success. Trying harder isn't always the answer, and sometimes it kills you. You look at what that fly did, it tried harder, and it threw itself against the window with everything that it had. More effort, more force, more determination, and it died 10 steps away from the door, from freedom. So how many of you right now are that fly? And you've been throwing yourself, I'm going to cough. This is when I don't think I have enough water. So right now, when we're that fly, we throw ourselves at the same closed window. More books, more podcasts, more effort, more I just need to work harder, push harder, and open the door. But we don't know the door is open and it's been there all the time. You just couldn't see it because we're so focused on the window in front of us. Trying harder at the same thing is not a strategy. It's a paradigm. And the breakthrough is never in more effort. The breakthrough is in a different direction. It's looking at what you've been doing and just understanding there's a better way. There's always a better way. So some of you in your bones know that you've been the fly. You've been giving that window everything you've got. And tonight you can already feel that the call that I've been mentioning to book some time with me is the different direction. And if that's you, that link has been in the portal. It's in the emails that have gone out. You don't need to wait. It is a gift. It's only a gift. We're going to look at where you are, where you want to go, and what the different direction looks like for you specifically. So let's look at what you've done this week. It's been an amazing week. You've actually accomplished a lot this week. And I don't think you fully realize how far you've come in these 5 days. So on the first night, we did something that most people never stop and do. You gave yourself permission to ask yourself, what do you really want? Not something safe, not something reasonable, but a C-type goal that excites you and scares you at the same time. And it really should scare you. You defined what you actually want, not what you think you're allowed to have. That's that limiting. That's the filter in our head that we're not aware is there. And then on the second night, on Tuesday, you now discover the reason that you haven't been getting what you want, that 97% of the population isn't getting what they want. And we call it the knowing-doing gap. You learned that you know what to do, but actually doing it are separated by something invisible and very powerful. And it's called your paradigm. Your subconscious conditioning that runs your life is on autopilot. And you learned that your self-image is the thermostat and your results are always going to match it. That's when I know it starts clicking for people. And then on the third night, you learned about the terror barrier, the wall between where you are and the freedom that you want. And you learn that fear is a navigation tool and it's not the enemy. But inaction haunts more than failure ever could. That was part of the research that I chatted about. And some of you went and understood your fear and faced your own fear in real time. It was when I challenged you, like the next morning, stand on one leg and brush your teeth. Write your goal out with your opposite hand. It's doing something that's going to make you very uncomfortable. It's naming and understanding that we have to step out of our comfort zone to create anything big and bold and beautiful. And last night, we talked about a subject not a lot of people want to talk about. We talked about your invisible ceiling in your financial life. And you took the time and audited your money paradigm. That very simple exercise about taking that number of the most you've ever made and then 2, 5, or 10x and put it in the middle. You picked one of the beliefs that is limiting you. I'd always love to know if somebody got up to 40. I had 41. You picked a belief and you started to do the transitioning and the repetition work. You're building evidence for creating a new belief. And you named that number And you felt what that was going to feel like in your own body, because that's the paradigm at war with you. And tonight you're learning about the mental move that makes all of this permanent and come together. Decision, which is the cutting off kind. You decided what the goal was. I'm going for this, and there's no turning back. You understand you have some paradigms that are going on, and we have to address those and move forward. You also know that you should be hitting fear almost every day, if not every week. And I'm going to say every week because it shouldn't be just once a month. If we're really growing and moving into where we want to go, we're going to hit that wall pretty high. And then you also understood about making a decision about money. See, 5 days ago, most of you didn't even know what a paradigm was. Most people don't. In fact, they hear the word, they don't really want to know. And tonight, you actually can see what your paradigm is. You probably have a name for it. You can name the type of conditioning that's been producing the type of results in your income and your relationships and your health and your entire life. And that awareness alone puts you ahead of 95% of the people who are going to go their entire lives and never see the program that's running them in their subconscious. And here's what I need you to understand. Awareness is the first step. It is never the last step. Seeing your paradigm and changing your paradigm are two completely different things. And that's where most people get stuck. So, right, like seeing your paradigm and changing your paradigm are two completely different things. Isn't that crazy? What we know is that repetition, accountability, and the ability for others to see what you cannot yet see. So I'm going to tell you, well, I don't want to say a story because it's my life, but it's about a decision I made, and it's not a strategy and it's not a plan. It really was a decision, and the kind that does happen in a millisecond and change my life and my family's life for the rest of my life. So I had talked about my last corporate job was with a corporate company that was just not a good fit. And so after efforting, because, well, in a sense, I don't like to give up. I don't want to be, let's watch words. I don't want it to be like I didn't give it my best shot. But I was not happy. And I couldn't imagine the rest of my life being in a role that I just was handing people off to somebody else. So I think I shared that I made that decision to go look for a coach because I didn't really want to go into therapy. I just knew that I needed somebody who could see the bigger picture than I could, because when we're mired in the muck, we often can't see it. And so I joined one of Bob's 3-day seminars. By the second day, I had signed up for coaching. And then I'm just going to guess at the time frame, probably 6 weeks into the coaching, Bob sent that fateful email out, which was, hey, we're growing the coaching division. Would you like to come and be mentored and coached by Sandy and I? And it was like, it was an instant yes in my body. So when we say it's the kind that happens in a millisecond, that's exactly what happened. I called up the person that had enrolled me into the coaching program, asked some questions, and I was in the coaching. I was going to become a coach and a consultant. And it's interesting. People go, didn't you talk to your husband? No. I did tell him what I had done, but it wasn't that we needed each other's permission. It was he supported me in what I wanted to do. And if this is what I wanted to do, then he was all behind me. That decision happened in a millisecond. It wasn't a process. I didn't have to think about it. And what changed after that? Life-changing. I made that decision, went into the coaching program, mentored and trained and studied for about 6 months, launched my coaching business October of 2019. Now you know what happens. Roughly 5 months later, the world shuts down and we're in a global pandemic. I still wouldn't have done it any other way. I could have gone back into my old world. In fact, I was talking to a daughter today. I could still get hired in my old world today. One, because I'm confident that I'm that good, and because I care about people in that world. But I had to cut that off. I had to cut off going back into that world, because at any point in time when something wasn't working right, that thought is going to be in your head, well, I could go back. I could go back and do that. It's very true. But the decision keeps me not doing that, because this is where I'm going no matter what. This is what I do. This is the path I chose. That's it. So here's what I know with certainty. Every single person who has received the transformation I'm describing made a decision first, just like I did. Not 5 and not 10, one decision. And it really was the decision to stop trying it alone. See, that was when I hired Bob, and I wanted to walk side by side with him. And that's really why having a phone call, a Zoom call with any of you exists. It is the gift that keeps on giving. It was the gift that Bob gave me. It was the gift that we circled back around after the coaching. Then I wanted to be mentored by him. So this is just going to be a real conversation about where you are and where you want to be. And if your heart is saying yes, the link is in the portal. The link is in the portal. So I do get asked this, and I thought, well, let's just go through some of the questions. I know I'm having the call afterwards, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But here's what I know. Every single person needs a coach, because we understand how athletes hire coaches, singers have singing coaches. One of the things I always found fascinating while Bob Proctor was alive, he worked with a lot of famous, influential people, athletes, singers, actors, but never made a thing about it, because they all needed help and they recognized. So a mentor is somebody who can see what you cannot. And so, because what I can't give you in these 5 days is the sustained and personalized support it takes to actually reprogram a paradigm. That does take repetition. And here's what I know. AI is never going to replace it. AI can't replace mentoring and helping individuals, because we're the problem and we're the solution, and AI can't solve it. AI can't make me do the work that I need to do. But it does take someone who can see specific blind spots, the ones we can't see by ourselves, because the paradigm can't see itself. It doesn't know, again, your subconscious doesn't know the difference between what is real or what is imagined. And it takes some accountability when that old conditioning starts pulling us back, and it will. I tell everyone, you're going to fall down. How far down the rabbit hole you go depends on the day. And you learn how to pull yourself back up. By no stretch of the means does this ever say, I'm going to wrap you in bubble wrap and life is never going to happen to you. It does take accountability when that old paradigm starts clawing its way back, because it will. And especially those times that we make that decision. So mentors just, this is what they do. It's not giving you more information, because you actually have obtained more information in these 5 days than most people do in a year. What I recognize with Bob is that mentors walk beside you while you're doing the hardest part, which is studying you, because it's changing who you are at the subconscious level. It's changing who you are at the subconscious. And I would just say, and I left this in here. See, this is funny because these words sounded really strong, but Bob, when he was alive, was a consummate salesperson. Selling is serving. Selling is serving. And that's what he got me to understand. So I left that on there because it is a gift. It's not a pitch. Not by any stretch of the means. So here's what's going to happen when I get to chat with people. First, we're going to chat because I'm like that. I like to know, where are you? Who are you? What are you doing? But we just hop on a Zoom and it's pretty simple. Where are you? What did you discover this week about your paradigm and your money ceiling? Where do you want to be? What is your C-Tech goal? And then we'll chat about and map out what's standing from where you are to where you want to go. And if I think I can help you, I will tell you how. This is not a secret. This isn't, I'll reveal the secret when. It is, if I think I can help you, I'm going to tell you exactly how. And if I can't, I'll also point you to whatever resources I think would actually serve you where you are. So zero pressure is never a high pressure pitch waiting for you, clothed in, sheep's clothing. It's a conversation between two people. One who has walked down that road, myself, that you're about to walk. And I'm framing it as a gift because this is what it really is. We've had all these days of teaching, and then we're going to hop on a Zoom for those that have any questions from someone who's done the work this week, and just come and ask real questions about your life. So I always get this, and I just call it out because this was me. Not really. Yes and no. I've always been the type of person that I understand the ability about making decisions. It's not that I've never waffled, but if I say I'm still not sure, it's really because I get it. It's the uncertainty when we talked about that XY vibration that we talked about, especially with the terror barrier. And it's showing up one more time. It just wears a different mask because you've spent the last 4 days learning, one, about yourself, but also how to recognize it. And it's your chance to practice what you've learned. Because here's what I say. If your heart says to book a call, then, and your head is keeping you in the maybe zone, that's the paradigm. And we just spent 4 days studying it. So I like to always explain a little bit about what's going on. I'll do it on my own. Like if you see all the books behind me, you absolutely can. Because everything I've taught you this week is yours, and it's in all the great books. It's in all the great books. But it's to ask yourself honestly, how many times have you tried to change on your own before? How many books, how many courses, how many promises to yourself in January? Information without implementation is just entertainment. My favorite phrase. Information without implementation is just entertainment. Because if doing it alone was going to work, it would have worked by now. And there's really no shame in it. If doing it alone was going to work for athletes, we're in baseball season right now. Do you think they would need a batting coach, pitching coach, all the coaches that they have? But it's just paradigms show up. No matter what, they do what they do. A lot of times people think about timing. Timing is never right. Timing is never right. Because if we're waiting for the perfect time when my kids are gone, when this happens, it's to understand what we teach. The resources come after a decision, not before. So the timing is never going to feel right. And the terror bearer is always going to be logical, practical reason to wait. It comes clothed like that. But your C-type goal isn't waiting. And the cost of inaction, another year, another 5, another decade, just like this one, the cost grows every single day. That's why I always say, I just speak to people's hearts. That's really all I do. I speak to the heart. Because if your heart is saying, not yet, then I honor that. Your heart. You have to feel it. Because what you've learned this week is yours forever. Forever and ever and ever more. We attribute this to Bob, but it wasn't Bob. Oh, shoot. I think it was Bill Goff. Yes. So when Bob was transitioning into this, he also talks about how do you embody the identity of the person you want to be. And he talked about Bill Goff, who he thought was a wonderful speaker. And what he had a popular phrase was, if I want to be free, I've got to be me, which goes on to be not the me I think you think I am, not the me I think my children think I am. If I want to be free, I've got to be me. I just didn't put it all in there. So I knew this was going to be relatively short. And I will open the Zoom room. I'm going to open it at 6. I'll keep it open for 10, 15 minutes because if people show up and have questions, and you can ask any questions about really anything here and anything about personal growth and development that I haven't even chatted about. But I do want to say thank you. Not just thanks for being here. Thank you for showing up. And thank you for doing the work, even when it was a little bit uncomfortable. Because it was a lot uncomfortable. Let's put just me up because I like to see me. For those that took some of the challenges and faced any of the fear and chose worthy goals and did the work, thank you for the questions that have been passed on. Thank you for your vulnerability about writing down beliefs that you didn't know you had about your money paradigms, about your generational money paradigms. Because that, to me, is game changer. For me, that one practice of going through generational DNA about why do I have these money paradigms? All of a sudden, everything just clicked. Being vulnerable and write down your beliefs that you didn't know until you wrote them. This is always some of the most meaningful times for me because I'm passing on what I was taught. So when I get to see people grow, and I get to see people who quietly start having aha moments, it is the reason that I chose to do this work. So 5 nights ago, I asked you a question. And I asked you, what would your life look like if your paradigm wasn't running the show? You started to answer that question this week. Don't stop now. Be you and decide. Stop being the fly and trying to hit that same closed window. The door has always been open. So we have about 15 minutes for a break. Then I'm going to open the Zoom room. If you have a question about anything, about the call, about your paradigm, about money, about decision, about your specific situation, come on in. And I will be ready and waiting. Like I said, I'm just going to hold it open and hold the space for the beginning. I'm just so thankful that you took the time to invest in yourself this week and that you made yourself a priority. And you should recognize that that was a really great thing to do. Happy Friday. I hope you enjoy Fridays as much as I do. And for those of you who want to pop into Zoom, I'll be there in 15 minutes. I'll hold the door open for about 10 or 15 minutes, and I hope to see you.